I am very much a PlayStation guy these days, but that hasn't always been the case, as there was a time way back when, 20 plus years ago now, where I was an Xbox 360 guy, and because of late we're getting remasters and remakes, it really made me think of the good old days. So like I said, I've not always been a PlayStation fanboy. There was a time where I was very much just an Xbox person. So like a lot of people, one of my first consoles was the PlayStation 1, then I went on to the PlayStation 2, then I did get the PlayStation 3, but I was just one of the individuals who had a PlayStation 3 rather than an Xbox 360. And I always wanted an Xbox 360, but didn't get one until after a couple of years after console had actually been out. So I didn't really get this on a release sort of day for this console. When I did get my hands on them, this changed my gaming experience like no other console has. So today, that's what I want to be talking about, the Xbox 360 days, and how it changed my perspective on gaming and how it was just, let's just say, a better time for gaming, for myself anyway, and I know a lot of you others probably think the same. So starting off with the days where you met some of the most pleasant people in the likes of game lobbies and in game chat itself.
You're stupid, I'm stupid, but you're the one that doesn't know there's a mute button for people talking stupid. Press the mute button if you don't like what you hear, you it. Wanna sniff some crack with me? Seriously, I'm all amped.
Mom's obviously not home, hey?
What? What was
Mom's
that?
obviously not home, that's why you're talking like that.
I can't hear, your mic is so shitty.
Get the water! Get the water!
But luckily, what Xbox did have, if you didn't want to get abused every 2 minutes online, was something that the PlayStation 3 was lacking, and that was the Xbox 360 party chat. Because with the PlayStation 3, all you could basically do back in the day was either go onto your dashboard and have a party chat with your friends, or there was only in-game chat. And with Xbox 360, they had their own separate system where it was called Xbox Party Chat, and you basically was able to interact with your friends whatever game you're on. I could be playing a single player game and I could be interacting with someone who's playing a multiplayer game or any different game. And PlayStation didn't have that. So coming to the Xbox 360, this was an absolute joy to have. Especially if you had a lot of friends that played Xbox 360 as well. Even if you didn't like the same type of game, you could just go in there and literally go and chat about your day, or whatever else was on my mind at the time. The Xbox 360 for me was very much the peak time for like sociably gaming, but we'll get a bit back to that later on. The next thing I really loved about Xbox 360, and I'm still in love with this sort of thing now, was its achievement system. Whereas now I'm playing PlayStation 5 and I get PlayStation trophies, the first thing that I came across that had this was the Xbox 360 and its achievement system. It made you want to go and play games even further after completing the game. I was very much an achievement hunter back in the day, and like I said, it's carried on now to my PlayStation days where I'm hunting PlayStation Platinums. Don't get to do it as much as I can anymore because of time, but I still now and again get some PlayStation Platinums. There's some videos on this channel of me getting them, and I very much enjoy that aspect of any game. There was games where they were a lot harder to do than others, or there was games where, you know, they didn't get you doing too much, but at the end of it, you wanted that little 1,000 game score at the end. I absolutely love this. I feel like Xbox maybe should do a bit more of their achievement system now. I definitely prefer getting that Platinum trophy, but that's just me. But yes, I did really enjoy the achievement system, and like I said, it's still stuck to me this day. Another thing that Xbox introduced, kind of, was the Xbox avatars. So originally, I think Nintendo came up with their Miis, which was basically create your own sort of avatar for yourself, and then Xbox adapted that and made it a little bit better and more realistic looking. Not really realistic, but you know, better than the Miis, I want to say. And there were certain games where you could use your own character. For example, I remember playing a poker game with all my friends, and you used to be able to sit around your table as your avatar, interact with all your friends using it. And you could even dress them up by buying or getting rewarded certain costumes for your character. For example, I think mine was dressed up as Ezio from Assassin's Creed. I really liked this at the time. It went a bit downhill in the end because it didn't really matter by the time the Xbox One came around. The only way you would ever use your avatar was probably maybe for a picture or so, but back in the Xbox 360 when this was initially introduced, I liked this. One of the best times about Xbox 360 days, and you could say this about the PlayStation 3 days as well, is midnight launches. So back in the day when you couldn't get a game digitally and have it day one released, pre-downloaded onto your console like you can now, you had to go buy physical games to receive them at 12 o'clock at night. And that's where midnight launches came in. You would go down to your local store on the day of release of that certain game and go down to a midnight launch, where you and a load of other strangers would just interact with each other because you had an interest in the same game. When you went to some of these stores, they held like events for this. I remember going down to like the local game store and they would just have loads of merchandise and all other accessories to do with that game, trying to sell it to you. I was one of those people who decided to just go and buy every merchandise of everything whilst I was there because I was either bored or I was just stupid. Probably both. And there was just times like these I really enjoyed where, you know, you'd have a community come together, and you just don't get that these days, and it's kind of disappointing. Remember when you used to get game franchises like once in a cycle of an actual console? For example, you got Gears of War 1 to 3 and like a prequel or so within a video game cycle. It happens with a lot of franchises these days. You get a sequel to the game like every 5 to 10 years, like you do unless certain companies, there is certain companies that bring them out a bit closer than that, but these days, for example, we had 2 Elder Scrolls games on the Xbox 360. We had 2 GTAs on the Xbox 360. Yes, I know games are bigger these days and they take longer to develop, but it was very much a time where there was always something to play. And the Xbox 360 did have some great games back then. Very much great exclusives as well. Of course, we had Halo 3, Halo ODST, Halo Reach, and near to the end of the Xbox 360 era, we had Halo 4 as well. I wasn't a massive Halo fan. I did like dibble and dabble in between them. I played quite a lot of Halo 3, wasn't a very good player. It wasn't like my go-to online game, but when friends were playing it, I would play it. I was more of a Gears of War guy. I remember getting my Xbox 360 and I think the first games I had were Fallout 3 and the original Gears of War. I always liked the look of Gears of War better than Halo. I just thought it was just looked more grungy and cool looking. And I very much did enjoy Gears of War 1 to 3 and the prequel, which I can't remember what it's called. And this was a good time where you could basically do co-op campaigns with your friends. The likes of Halo 3 and all the Gears of War were very much great co-op games. And you don't really get much of them these days. You get like the odd one here and there, but you don't really get these sort of experiences anymore where you go around through the whole campaign picking your certain character in Gears of War or Halo and just going through the whole campaign with your friend. Rather with now, if you played a co-op campaign, I don't think it would just hit the same. Might be wrong, but I haven't done a co-op campaign in a long time because I know they're not very much as they were.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
And speaking of co-op games, First Dead Rising game was a game where I always looked at it when I had a PlayStation, for example, and thought, oh, this game looks really cool. You know, you're going around a mall and stuff, killing zombies. That looks very much up my alley. I kind of like zombie games. I'm not a horror fan, but I like zombie games. And before anyone says anything, I don't think Dead Rising 1 was actually a co-op game anyway, but I did go on to get Dead Rising 2 and the other games and played all these co-op and absolutely had a joy with it. Hunting down achievements for my friend. You had to do playthroughs of these games, and I very much enjoyed just going through another game with a friend. And this brings me on to another game in this sort of genre, Left 4 Dead. I know this is on PC and stuff as well, but this is an Xbox 360 exclusive. It didn't come out on the PlayStation. I know it did come out on obviously Steam and stuff because it's made by Valve, but this was a very much a game where I literally did everything on co-op with this game. I did everything on co-op with this game. I don't think I've even played this game single player before. I might have, I don't know, done it with a few bots, but like for 2 minutes or so, but very much enjoyable game. And you do try and get games like this these days. There's been like a few clones, and there's been like one that was the developers of Left 4 Dead and this, that, and the other, but it just doesn't hit the same. Now, enough about multiplayer for now. Let's talk about some of the single player games that the Xbox 360 brought around. And one being a fan favorite, which is Fable 2. I never played the original Fable because I didn't have an original Xbox. Like I said, I had a PlayStation 2 before the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. But Fable 2 was such a different sort of game than I expected. There were so many different things you could do on this game. For example, being good and evil, doing certain things to certain characters. It was just very much a do what you want sort of game, but in like a wacky looking world. Probably not explain that the best, but in my head it makes sense. And then obviously we went to go and get Fable 3, which I didn't like as much, but somehow I've actually played that more than Fable 2. Still a good game, but I did prefer Fable 2, and then I did go and play the original Fable when the Anniversary Edition came out, and I absolutely adored that game as well. And I am looking forward to the new Fable, because what I've seen of it, it does look good. I'm a bit skeptical, I'll admit I'm a bit skeptical, and apparently this might be coming out to PlayStation as well, day one, which I hope, because I don't own an Xbox console anymore, and my PC would probably blow up if I played it, because it's awful, my PC at the moment. Another single player game that I did enjoy back on the Xbox 360, and this is an Xbox 360 exclusive as well, we'll go over some of the non-exclusives in a minute, was Lost Odyssey. So, like I said, I had a PlayStation 3 before I had the Xbox 360, and I played Final Fantasy 13 on there. Being a Final Fantasy fan at the time, not as big as I am now, I kind of enjoyed Final Fantasy 13, but it wasn't that classic sort of Final Fantasy game. And then with the Xbox 360, you had Lost Odyssey, which I think was the actual creators of some of the older Final Fantasy games, or, you know, some of the development team. And this was very much a Final Fantasy game without the name Final Fantasy. The turn-based system, the story was great. It's a game I never got to complete, annoyingly. I think this game was about 4 discs long. I had the strategy guide and everything for this game. I think I only got through about halfway disc 2. I don't know why I stopped playing it at the time, but it's definitely one of those games where I would actually go back and play it now, because I feel like with those sort of games where they're turn-based, they can kind of age better than, for example, ones that are hack and slash with all your awful camera angles. So this is a game where I want to go back and actually try and play this again soon. Now, don't get me wrong, there was more Xbox exclusives and stuff that came out. There's a big list of them, and I could probably be here all day talking about them. But just remember, these were the days where we didn't even need the Xbox exclusives, because there were so many other good games that came out in that PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 era. Just remember, Call of Duty basically blew up from this consoles era, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, with Modern Warfare 1, and then Modern Warfare 2 was probably the game that basically solidified Call of Duty to what it is today. Probably some of the best times I've had on Xbox was with Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops 1. And let's not forget about Battlefield as well. And they very much did blow up in this sort of era as well. And I had my fair few hours in those games, because they were absolutely brilliant in their own way as well. And of course, you had your single player games like Oblivion, Skyrim, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Grand Theft Auto 4, Grand Theft Auto 5, the Assassin's Creed games. And just remember how many of these games came out in these franchises back then. Like I said earlier, you get a game every so many years now. You used to literally get these every year. I know Call of Duty is still pumping games out every year, and that's probably why they're not doing as well as they were, but I think they are still doing okay. And these were the days where we didn't have microtransactions. You know, you had the optional DLC, you had like single player DLC. If you want to buy it, go and buy it. You don't have to buy it. You don't have skins that we're going to give you, and if you had skins, you would unlock them in the game. I remember on Call of Duty, you had map packs that were coming out. They used to announce them before they came out, and then you used to get a season pass, for example, not the way you do now, and it would say like 3 to 5 maps coming in this week, and this week, and they were actually really enjoyable when they came out. Now you get them for free, kind of, and then they just make you buy all their cosmetics, but that's probably one of the reasons I fell out with multiplayer gaming. But yeah, these were just the days where you could just literally insert your disc into your console, not have an 80 gig update before you actually need to go and play the game, or you didn't actually have to install a game. I think you might have had to install a game on PlayStation 3 sometimes because of a certain thing that they had with the PlayStation 3. It might have been because they were Blu-rays, I can't remember, but you used to literally go and buy the game in the shop, put it in your console, you're on the game. None of that these days. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind sometimes getting a digital game, you know, pre-installing it onto your console, and then when you come home from work, for example, it's there ready for you, but you didn't need to do that back in the day anyway, so. But yeah, this has just been a video of me going on about some of the better times where I enjoyed, for example, multiplayer games and other games where games just came out and there was just not much to worry about, and you just feel like you could have more fun. Games are fun these days, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I feel like it just hits a bit different these days. But these have been some of my favorite times back in the day. I might do a PlayStation 3 video as well, but I don't feel like I can because I didn't play it as long as the Xbox 360. I did have quite a lot of time on the PlayStation 3, but not nearly as enough as this. But let me know down below what were your favorite times of the Xbox 360 era or the PlayStation 3 era, and what you miss most about that era. And if you do enjoy videos like this, please do consider subscribing, because I'm going to be talking about games near enough all year, new and old, playing games new and old. For example, if I'm going to play a game, I'm playing for a game now, I'll give my sort of, not retrospective, maybe like retrospective or sort of review on it. And if I get a new game, I'll give my first impressions and reviews on them. So yeah, if you're into that sort of thing, please do consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next one.